Hi there, welcome to Conversations, where we seek to advance your leader and team excellence by discussing relevant topics that impact today's organizations. Welcome to the show. Today we have Dr. Carmellia Shivers-Cole, who is a character and leadership consulting coach and keynote speaker who speaks at schools, universities, businesses, and athletic programs. Her passion is to motivate and empower organizations, educators, and individuals to be their best. She educates emerging Generation Z talent educators, leaders, and organizations on the challenges and opportunities of the future multi-generational workforce. Her insights, ideas, and strategies with leading Generation Z as a catalyst for global talent that will truly change the world. And for all you strengths enthusiasts, Dr. Shivers-Cole leads with strategic communication, achiever, relator, and activator. Carmellia, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I am wonderful today. Thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. It is a joy to have you, and what a conversation we are going to have. Hey, congratulations on the new book.
Yes, very excited. I just felt like it was important words that needed to be said about this new generation. I've had experience with them and leading my own children who are Generation Z.
Yes.
And I just think that my book gives many insights into what the future workforce is going to foretell, and what leaders and organizations need to know about as many aspects as I could think of to help them introduce or bring these new young people into the workforce in a smooth transition.
So important. What is the name of your book? Tell the listeners what and where can they purchase it.
It's ABC Ends with Z. It looks like a children's book, but it is not the title, but I that purposely did that. And you can find it on Amazon. It is on sale on Amazon. So I hope you can go out and purchase. It is a good read. And if you do not work for Generation Z, you know someone who does. And it will be a good read for your organization or someone you know who is a leader who works with Generation Z.
Well, I can't wait to get mine. I should have it next week, I believe.
Thank you.
You are welcome. You are welcome. So why don't we start off by what exactly is Generation Z?
Well, Generation Z, they are born between 1997 and 2012, and they're right now in elementary school and in college, or just graduating from college. They are their experiences and their backgrounds, they really shape who they are as people in their young lives, their personalities and their traits. And they're the world's first global generation. Literally, they were born with technology in their hands. These young kids have phones in their hands at 1 and 2 years old, knowing how to do more than we know how to do with this technology. And the technology they have really shapes their thinking and their decision making, their perspectives. And it's going to have a lot to do with how they work in their personal lives. So it's a way they communicate, it's a way that they learn, it's a way that they entertain themselves, they exercise, they do everything with technology. And their need for technology is a need for speed. I know my generation, we had to dial up. And
yes.
Yes. It was very slow. Well, if you give Generation Z dial up, they get very frustrated if they click on that button and it doesn't happen immediately.
It's the expectation.
Absolutely. So they're going to have in their future AI technology, and they're going to want this in the workforce. So organizations need to get ready and be prepared to have this in the workforce, because they're going to expect it in their working environment. And if they don't have it, they're not going to be there long if you don't have that technology in their workforce.
I know my grandson, right before we came on, he was on video with me through FaceTime or through Facebook.
Mhm.
And, he just popped in. I'm getting ready. He pops in, says, "Hi, Grandma," wants to have a conversation. And he's doing all these fun things with his background. It's just he knows what to do.
He knows what to do.
He really
How old
didn't
is
need
he?
to be taught. He is 6.
Okay. Yes. Yes, yes. I think he's part of the next generation, which is the Y generation. No, the Y generation. Yeah. So
It's
yeah.
crazy.
It is. I can only imagine what his generation is going to bring after
Mhm.
Generation Z. Yeah. Yeah. But they are Generation Z, they're smart kids though. They're very goal oriented, and they learn from their everyday experiences. But unfortunately, that's going to come from the internet. What they
Yeah.
experience every day is what they see on the internet, and they think that's just a part of life, and it's actually a part of their life. And we as parents, because Generation X and some millennials are their parents, and we have mentored them and coached them and sheltered them or protected them and
Mhm.
monitored them, and so all these things that we have done for our children, this is what they're going to expect in their work environment and what we need to provide in their work environment. Yes.
So why should leaders and organizations be worried about this young generation?
Well, competition. And if they are not worried, they will not have a new future worker. Um, if you think about it, the generations, there's 5 generations in the workforce at this point in time. Traditionalists are still in the workforce. Baby boomers are still in the workforce. Generation X is still in the workforce, and millennials are in the workforce. The next working generation is going to be Generation Z. There were 80 million baby boomers. That's why they called them baby boomers. And so all those baby boomers are retired or getting ready to retire, but there's only like 42 million Generation Z. So 80 million, 40 million, there's going to be a big deficit in the work skills, and Generation Z are the only ones to fill that deficit. And so we in the future may be short workers. If organizations and leaders don't learn to adapt and cater to Generation Z, whether they want to or not, they will not have the skill set of new workers in their workforce, because they will have an option of who they can choose to work for. And they will bring forth their options of who they want to work for us based on their, not necessarily monetary, but their work-life balance. They
Mhm.
really want a good work-life balance. Um, so there's going to be a lot of competitions. The one thing that we have to worry about with Generation Z is that they're going to lack experience. They do not have work experience. And if you expect them to have work experience, they're not going to have that. You're going to have to basically bring them in, hold their hands, and teach them about work and soft skills and how to communicate with other generations and what the appropriate behaviors at work, because they don't know all these things. And so it is going to be an environment that workers or the organizations and leaders are going to have to worry about.
It sounds
Uh,
like that there's a lot of opportunity for development there, and organizations will need to understand that, just like you said, but then be willing to develop their people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Generation Z, they're not the generation that's going to fit in this tiny little workbox that we have made for them. They're going to step all outside that box and make their own circles and squares and other shapes outside of that box. So we have to be ready to accommodate them and change. And change is going to be hard. Change is going to be hard for them, and change is going to be hard for other generations and the workforce, bringing them into the workplace. It will be difficult for change for the whole work environment or the whole workforce, and it won't be easy. But organizations have to have a strategic plan or foresight into Generation Z, and this will help them benefit in the workplace if they have a strategic foresight or plan for Generation Z. It will help them in recruiting and hiring in the future for Generation Z. So it's important that we understand what inspires them, what motivates them, what drives them, and integrate them into the workforce with other generations. Um,
It's funny that
so
you say that about, inspire, we need to inspire them and whatnot. And it's almost as though those things have not been done over the years, like really leaders thinking about, what does a worker need and how can we inspire them? And it seems like it becomes more and more important as we learn how people are showing up in the workplace and their
yes,
needs.
yes, yes, and with Generation Z, they are. If you think millennials for something, well, Generation Z is going to be something else. They're going to be they're going to be totally different. They have an entitlement that they're entitled to have all the things that we had and more. They want the work-life balance as far as job flexibility. I want to work from home. I don't want to work 40 hours a week, but I want to make good money. I want the benefits. They are going to want everything that we have had and the previous generations has had and even more. And if organizations and leaders don't cater, they're going to struggle to recruit this future worker in the workforce. And if they don't invest the necessary time, the money, and the resources
Mm-hmm.
into understanding and appreciating Generation Z, well, they're going to miss out on the values and these performances of these young folks. And they're going to be very smart. And if you invest in them, they will pay off, but it is going to take an investment.
Is there in your research, did you find, is there a generation that kind of gels best with this upcoming generation,
Yes, I
Generation
talk
Z?
about that. I talk about that in a chapter of my book. We talk about leaders who would be the best leaders for Generation Z, and millennials are going to be the best leaders for Generation Z because they're kind of like on the same level. They're the same but a little different, and they kind of have an understanding of Generation Z because they're closer to their age and they have a lot of things in common, and they can kind of understand their technology and yeah, so it will be the millennials, and I know that millennials are that young generation, but they are going to be the future leaders of Generation Z.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And do you have any like examples of challenges that have to be considered for the workplace when it comes to this
Yes.
generation?
So this generation, I think one of the main things that came up in this generation is diversity. If
Mm.
you do not have diversity in your workforce, you will fail to keep these young generation in your workforce. They are a diverse group of young workers, and they want their diversity in their workforce. And they're not going to work for an organization who does not have that diversity in their workforce. So that's important to them. Another thing that could be to consider is what is the organization doing socially? Social things for Generation Z are important. So if your organization is not walking and walking, talking and talk about what they're doing for the community, then that's important for Generation Z. They want to know, what are you doing as an organization to help society? And they want to make a difference in the world, and they want to help change the world, and they want their organization to also be on board on the same page or have the same values as them as far as changing what you contribute to society. So that's important. Um, Another thing, an example of what some things that are going to be challenging is recruiting and hiring, and you're going to need to think about recruiting differently. There's still the things as far as resumes and tests, but Generation Z is a hands-on generation. And as far as recruiting, if you're not recruiting as far as social media or on the internet or the website, or attracting them in this manner, then you're not going to be recruiting this Generation Z. Relationships in recruiting, you want to make sure that whoever your recruiting coordinators are, they develop a relationship with Generation Z, because that's important. They want a level of trust. And if they have that relationship already in the recruiting with a coach or a recruiter who they've been working with in college or be in high school, then they trust those relationships, and that will be better for the recruiting for the organization. The challenge is about onboarding. The minute that you bring Generation Z into your workforce, you got to think about how you're going to keep them there from day one, because Generation Z, they will job hop. They're going to probably go with a different job every 2 to 3 years. They may try out different jobs, but just because they job hop doesn't mean that you don't invest in that particular generation, because know that when you hire them and you're doing your onboarding, you train and develop them, knowing that in 3 years or they may job hop and leave. But if you have done what you need to do as far as development, and they trust, and you build that development, and they can come back to your organization and then stay. So if you develop them and give them that trust and give them the education or what they desire as far as, promoting them or knowing that they have a career path, and they leave, well, they go to another organization and realize that your organization was better, and they'll come back. So just know that when you do onboarding, that they may leave, but that does not mean that you don't still develop them, because that's a potential that you can have that future employee come back.
Yeah, because it sounds like, and what you touched on earlier is that relationship.
Yes.
And so if that relationship is stronger than where they landed, where they job hop to and come back, that probably plays a role in their thinking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. So another challenge for them is work-life balance. I think I talked about that before. They're not going to be in the office 40, 50 hours a week. We worked that long, and we would work 40, 50 hours and not spend time at home. We didn't want the vacation time. We very rarely took vacations. Benefits wasn't what we wanted as far as a benefit. Generation Z is not going to go for that. They kind of like the traditionalists or the baby boomers, they want that old fashioned. They want benefits. They want vacation time. They want to spend time with their life and balancing off their life. So they don't want to spend so much time at work and not have a life also. So their work-life balance is very important. Even workspaces, challenges in workspaces. You think about all these green spaces that a lot of the organizations are now doing, and they like those green spaces, or different, or not necessarily a corner office, but maybe a corner room that has a green space where they can go and think, and it's different, and they have games, and this is things that will attract them as far as recruiting also. And challenges could be, once again, communicating with other generations, because millennials will understand them. Generation X, we're kind of their parents, and we kind of take them for granted sometimes because they're young, and baby boomers just don't understand them. And so in communicating with Generation Z and other generations, that could be a very big challenge. And there may be some need for consulting to come in, generational consultants to help with that tension between the different generations, and also even with teaching them about old technology, because you think of it, we used to answer the phone, and they still have phones in the offices that are landline phones. Well, Generation Z have never answered a landline phone. So when they get to work and you're asking them to answer the phone and put the phone on hold, they have no idea how to do that.
That's amazing. Like, just to think about. Imagine if they had to transfer a call.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They could do it on their smartphone, but
Yes.
not every office is going to have a smartphone, whatever. It's going to be a landline phone that they're going to have to answer. And someone's going to have to walk them through the process of answering that phone over and over and over again, because it's going to be foreign technology for them. It's going to be ancient technology for them. Yes. So they'll have a hard time understanding that.
So, how can this generation be successful? What does that look like?
What that looks like is understanding and their talents and their weaknesses, and understanding that to maximize their potential. Um, Mentorship, coaching, consulting, helping them, those things will help them in their success. The ability for organizations to alter their task or alter their workplace and the rules for work environment to get the most out of Generation Z. They Generation Z, the work environment, they're not going to adjust to the work environment necessarily. The work environment will have to adjust to them. And so just getting the grasp of what their expectations are, their beliefs, their wants, and making them happy will attract Generation Z and retain them for the workforce and for them to be successful.
So that definitely sounds like, and you touched on this, like a consultant like yourself going into an organization. I'm imagining and helping them find their way. Like, how do they need to adjust their current way of doing things and operating? Is that?
And that's so key, because if you do not understand what it takes to keep them into your organization or have that understanding of Generation Z, you will lose them. They will job hop and not come back to your organization, and you will be short those workers. So bringing someone in who knows about Generation Z, such as myself, and just having to explain what it is, the work environment, what they want, understanding them. And even though they're different, they want it to be treated with respect. So giving them the coaching they need, respecting them as young workers, and not just taking their ideas into consideration, and guiding them. I know that just they're going to really need the guidance, and they're going to really need the mentorship to be successful.
Yeah, so that's twofold. So it's a consultant coming in and helping the organization at that level and the understanding. And then it's a coach coming in, or coach team of coaches coming in and helping those generations um, understand. And there's that connection, right? I imagine it's helping them understand where their employer is coming from, and maybe the history of that organization and why things are done a certain way. And maybe they both need to meet in the middle somewhere with the change
Absolutely.
efforts.
Absolutely. With the consulting, just bringing in someone, and I know I said before about a generational consultant that knows about different generations and what it's going to take for all generations, bringing everyone to the table and working through all the challenges that the Generation Z will bring. The consultant can give their expertise as far as, what is a strategic plan for them, what is the plan, or bringing on a coaching initiative plan. As far as coaching with Generation Z, the coaching can help them, Generation Z, figure out what their goals are, and how they can move to the next level. And not only for Generation Z, but coaching works for all levels of the organization from top to bottom, to bring in leaders, and teach the leaders how to be the coaches themselves, because coaching and leadership is not quite the same. Generation Z, they want a coach. They don't want a boss. They don't just want someone to tell them do this or do that. They want someone to help them figure out how they do the things that they do or what's going to work for them, and bringing out their best selves. And this is where coaching could help everyone in the organization.
Oh, this is fascinating. I love learning about generations because they are all so different.
Yes, yes, they are very different, and if you do not address the challenges and the differences, then that understanding or not having the same perspective will become a problem in the workforce. And
Mhm.
it's hard if you have, as a Generation X, I have a certain perspective of what I think work is. Well, Generation Z have a certain perspective of what they think work is. And if we don't communicate and talk about what your perspective and my perspective, and then we're going to clash in the middle. And so I need to be able to see your perspective and make decisions on your perspective, and you have to see my perspective and understand the decisions I make from my perspective.
Because oftentimes that perspective is our truth. And so,
Yes.
yes.
Yes, yes. So, um,
Wow.
once again, I think that, coaching is so important for Generation Z. It can help them develop their skills, their competencies, the habits, their behaviors. Having a coach can help do that. And you could have different type coachings. I know that we talk about individual coaching and team coaching, bringing someone in outside the um, organization to coach, having internal coaching, and even training the leaders to be coaches themselves.
Mhm.
But a coaching program can help Generation Z, and it could be really successful in helping them to transition and integrate into the workforce. And then coaching can provide them with a space to solve problems, and it gives them a way to accomplish their goals, and it can help them to be held responsible and accountable for their decisions and actions, because sometimes they don't want to be accountable. They don't hold themselves accountable for the things that they do.
And that can be very challenging in the
Yes.
workplace
Yes.
because there's
Yes.
an expectation there. But that, I mean, regardless of generation, I think accountability is one of those things where it's kind of, people don't like it, but it's necessary.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yes.
Gosh, so much good information.
It 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 is the future,
It is the
and
future.
it is the future. They are the future. They are going to change the world. And if organizations don't get on the bandwagon, then they're going to get left behind. And it's so important not to just disregard this young workers because they're young. Uh, it's important to pay attention to their trends, what they want, and give them that mentorship. And another thing that I want to say, which will be good, is that we can learn a lot from Generation Z, and they can learn a lot from our generations or previous generations, and that co-mentorship or that cross mentorship will be really good for them, because I don't know a lot about technology, which they can teach me, and they don't know a lot about soft skills, which I teach them. And so, that mentorship that goes both ways is important, and bringing that into the workforce will help that with that communication and that understanding and different perspectives of each other.
And, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking as coaches, we really need to understand because if we're going to go in and try to help this generation in the workplace, we need to have an understanding of where they come from.
Yeah.
So it really is a thread that kind of weaves through it weaves
Yeah.
through the organization, and the leadership there trickles down
It trickles down.
throughout. But then the people who are, people like yourself, you're an expert in this. And so you've done research, how to help organizations, how to coach through this. Me, I don't, I can coach a person, but I think it's really helpful for a coach to have an understanding of the generation where these people are landing
Yes.
in order to help them through.
Well, and I think though you touch upon a point of you being the coach and helping other people, but I think that even being a coach of Generation Z, if you don't understand yourself, you cannot help Generation Z. So even getting to the point where you're coaching the leadership to prepare for coaching Generation Z, if you don't have an understanding of who you are, then you can be no use of the perspective or looking at helping someone else. So it's important that coaches, all coaches, Generation Z coaches or coaching executive leaders, just helping them to find out who they are so they can be better leaders of the people that they're leading.
Fascinating.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I appreciate you so much. Really enlightening the audience and myself included today with what you brought with your research, and I can't wait to get your book. Really go through it and reflect on what I know is going to be really rich content in there. So I appreciate you.
And I think the book was written for a guideline, to kind of give a guide to different situations and just giving you recommendations to I tried to make sure that there was recommendations to every situation as far as what benefits, even clothing. When you bring Generation Z, what we think is professional, what I think is professional is I love wearing a suit, but they're not going to wear a suit. And so what is the work attire going to be like in your office, and are you going to meet them in the middle? And so little things like that are so important, and I try to put in all the little things and all the guidelines and just try to be as thorough as possible and give those recommendations of how you can meet in the middle with Generation Z, the workforce, and other generations.
So good. Now, if people are tuning in and they're saying, hey, this is really interesting, I want to hear more, how can we connect people to Dr. Shivers-Cole here?
Well, you can, haven't gotten up, like I say, I'm still old school. I'm working on the website and everything, but CSCU coaching@gmail.com. So you'll be able to contact me through just emailing me. I'll respond back. Still working on other things as far as, but that is also on the book, on the back of the book or the front of the book to tell where you can contact me. I'm open for doing as far as speaking engagement, keynote speaking, talking about Generation Z, coming in, being a liaison between your younger workers and trying to figure out what they're going through, what they need, and relaying that and being a liaison between the organizations or the other generations. So that is the way right now to get a hold of me. There will be more things to come. Yes. And yes.
Well, thank you so much for being here today, Carmellia. I appreciate you, the work that you're doing, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of you in the future.
Thank you so much. I appreciate giving me a voice to let people know about this important thing that's coming up in the future work.
Absolutely. Well, you take care.
Thank you so much.
All right, keep doing great things.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.